Elizabeth Lillian Rose Patrick Gleason. When January 14, 1921. My parents' names?
Yep.
My mother was Anna Susan, and my dad's name was Joseph John. Chicago. Southern side was the Chicago, 8200 South Chicago. That was after World War I, you know. It was Depression time. It was rough. But we didn't know. We got along. We just didn't buy much or anything. We were lucky we were eating. And it kept family together. My mother was born in Czechoslovakia. And she's the best mother there is. She was so good to us. We always did things, and she worked and she'd come home and she'd make bread and make dinner, and oh, it was so good to have her bread, butter bread. Oh, donuts, yeah, raised donuts. Oh God, they were good. I still could taste them. Oh, my dad, he's a machinist, and he's an experimental machinist, and he was very good. He worked for Solo Paper Cup for a number of years after he got a job. And he was the best dad there was. He and my mother were very close, very good together. I had two brothers in high school, when they were in high school. My dad had a lay down in the basement. He was always working. He never called his two sons. He called my mother, come down and help him. They were there close all the time. They were real good, really. That was before she even knew my dad.
Oh, okay.
And my dad came over, and he had an uncle living in Chicago, and his uncle was married to my mother's sister, and she didn't know that. And when my mother came, my dad already was here, and he was with his uncle in Chicago. And then my mother went to visit him, her aunt,
mm-hmm.
And this is how my dad met my mother, through uncle and aunt. One was my dad's uncle, and the aunt was my mother's aunt. And that's how they met. They were wonderful. Very small family, because we were all born in there. All our relatives were in Europe. They still are. My mother lived in the hills, and my dad lived in the big city. My oldest brother was Joseph, and my younger brother was Albert. And Albert passed away first. He was young. He had cancer, because he installed air conditioning in large buildings and that, and of course the adhesive. Well, there was that insulation. I couldn't think that was cancerous to the body. This is my younger brother, Albert John Patrick. Oh, my brother, he's a very good-looking boy. All the girls were after him. He did a lot of paperwork, and I can't remember what his job was now. It's been so long. But he was very good at it. And he never got married until he was 68 years old. He met his buddy's ex-wife, because his buddy passed away, and they got together, and then he got married when he was 68. He was with her until he was 95. Like our famous holiday dinners, and always visiting back and forth with my aunt and uncle and my cousins, and we were close. And our favorite thing was, after rain, we used to have a picnic, and there'd be about 3 or 4 families would go to the woods, and we'd pick mushrooms, because after rain, the healthy woods, and my folks and my relatives liked mushrooms. We used to go mushroom. And of course, those kids played baseball, fun things like that. I think we were well fed. We always had meat, potatoes, and vegetables, and homemade bread. That was it. We never starved. One time I did something wrong. I can't remember what it was. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my dad turned me over his knee, and I cried and cried, and it hurt my dad more than it did me. And he never spanked me again. Never. He says, spanking hurts. He says, I'll talk to you, and that'll go in your head. That's what he told me. My worst discipline after that was when I did something wrong. I had to go kneel in the corner, and I'd always have company. And I didn't want to be in that corner. Well, hobbies? Well, my girlfriend I grew up with, we lived upstairs in this flat building and they lived downstairs and we were very close. Eleanor was born first, she's a year older than I was, and we grew up together. And going to school, and her mother always had us embroidery, doing embroideries and reading books and studying homework. And then we were allowed to walk after we ate our homework. We took a good walk then afterwards and come home and had dinner then. And that was our favorite thing to do. We did swimming. We lived across the street from a park, and they had different times for different age groups to go swimming. And we used to like that too, to go to the park and go swimming. Oh yes, would you like to live it? We lived, the first house we lived, I was born in, I said Avalon, I think, but I was born in Grand Crossing Park. And the building was a great big wooden building, all stove heated. Nothing furnace in that days, you know, unless you were wealthy. And there's 5 different families in that big house. And it was the first floor and the second floor, and then there was an attic. And on rainy days, we used to play up as girlfriends in the attic. And my dad went to a railroad sale. He wanted a trunk. And he bought this trunk and he brought it home. And they were all beaded dresses, which must have been an actress's dresses. And that would be in the attic. And we used to go up there on rainy days and dress in the attic when we were young kids and play that way and enjoy that. Kind of kept busy cleaning the attic and things like this. We had a good time. A railroad sale.
What was that?
I don't know where they had it in Chicago. It must have been up north in around 12th Street or something, where the railroad stations were. And they had a warehouse with stuff that was left on trains and never been claimed by anyone. So when they'd have sale, my dad wanted a trunk, and that's when he bought this trunk with all these beautiful dresses in it. Beaded dresses, yeah. It must have been an actress or somebody. It's fun. I wish I had those dresses. Oh, they were gorgeous. We just played it and left them there, you know. My favorite subject? Oh, golly, what was it? I think I liked English a lot. I liked diagramming sentences and essays. That's about it. We had history and arithmetic and everything like that. History, date remembering was hard for me, anyway. Oh, when I moved from Chicago to California, my girlfriend was married and she lived in Downey. I stayed with her for a week, and I got an apartment where her high school girlfriend's mother lived, and they had little places behind their home. They converted a room, and I moved into that room, and then I got a job, and I worked for Pacific Metal Company in the bookkeeping department. And I met my husband. I lived down in Mr. and Mrs. Sella's apartment, and my husband, who I didn't know, lived over the garage in the apartment with his twin brother. And that's how I met my husband. He was going off to church one time. His mother and sister came and stayed in the apartment. And the mother wanted to go to Lawrence Welk. Lawrence Welk was born in northern Dakota, and she was born in South Dakota. And so we had a group together, and my husband, I wasn't going with her at that time. His sister asked me if I'd like to go with him. There was a group going with him. And of course, I had my eye on Rex very much, but I was very, very nervous around him. He made me very nervous because I kind of had an attachment to him. And then we went to Lawrence Welk, and his mother got to dance with Lawrence Welk. And his older brother went too, and I danced with his older brother all night because Rex did dance. So that's how we got together, really, is through that. Oh, we'd go to movies or to dancing, or we'd have a group together, play cards or something like that. That's about it. And we enjoyed being together and have, a light meal or something like that. It was good. Sister invited me to the dance with Lawrence. Well, he was quite upset because he wanted to ask me, but he never got to ask me. But once we got together, why, he asked me out to dinner, and we went to dinner, and then sometimes we'd go to a movie show, or we went to his twin brother's house. He was married and had a wife and 2 children, and we'd visit them quite a few because they were very close. Max was born first, and then Rex was born second. Well, he says, we've been going together now for quite some time, he says, and we're up in years. I think we should get married, don't you? He was 29 and I was 29. He was 29, I was, no. What was he? He was 39 and I was 35. That was the first marriage for the 2 of us. And he had 6, there were 6 boys in his family, and he was the last one to get married. And then his sister was born. She's the only girl. We got married, what was it, August 17th? Grace was born on our wedding day, and that was August 17th, but I can't remember the year. We lived in Bell, and I went to the Catholic Church in Maywood on Atlantic, and we got married in that church. It was very small, just a few friends that we had, and our folks came. Of course, Rex's dad was passed away, but his brothers that were in California came, and a few friends, and we had a church wedding, and then we had a small reception, a dinner, and then we went off on our honeymoon. We went to Carmel by the Sea. Oh, that was such a lovely city. Oh, I loved it. It was art and that, you know, we enjoyed it. Really nice. Yeah. And then we came home after a week. We had a nice honeymoon and stayed in the apartment, and then I got pregnant with John, and my folks were in. My dad said we better get a home. So my dad and my husband and I, we went looking for houses, and that's when we bought this house. We lived in this house for John is 55, and he was 6 months old when we moved in here. And I'm still living in the same house. You know, it's old, it needs to be repaired, but I'm not spending any money on it. Oh, everybody, all the carpenters and that look at the house and it needs bad painting. But it's doing fine for me. Well, it used to be a furniture manufacturer, Crestview Furniture Company. And after that, he became a real estate man. Well, my dad was going to, at the times, join, but the war ended. And that was the time that everybody had gotten that awful flu, that many were dying. And my dad was in the service, but he didn't serve in the fighting in that, and he had gotten the flu, and many died. But my dad left him with influenza, where he shook. But he did all his work, even though he did that. From that, but it was rough. It was rough during that time. And then President Roosevelt came in, and he really straightened things out. He was a good president. I think he was the best we had for things like that. It was Rex, John, Gleason. Well, he was tall, he was nice looking, very loving and real kind. And his identical twin was the same. He was married, and Shirley, and 2 girls, Linda and Jeannie. Linda lives in Oregon, Jeannie lives in Texas, and they're wonderful daughters. They still call me and see how I am and everything. Rex was sitting here, and he was like this, and she was on his legs like this, fell sound asleep, and he just let her stay there. It was so cute. I think you were about 4 years old, 3 years old, something like that. You know, she always clung next to her Grandpa Rex. You've been around family with children and that, and you love them, you're so cute. But when you have your own child, to think that you have something so wonderful that the good Lord gave you a child to take care of and bring up, and you're kind of judged by the good Lord how well you raise your children. And John was very favorite. And Then I got Robert, and then I had Carol. He's tall, he's 6'2", I think, like his dad was. Nice looking boy, very popular at high school, very good with his subject, and he's doing very well now, I think. He takes his family out, different nice places. He's not home enough to be with them, but he's got his business and he's workaholic. I'd cook dinner and make dinner, and John was a very fussy eater. And then I'd make something that he liked. So we sat at the table one night, and we had dinner. He says, well, I don't care for this. And his dad says, just a minute, everybody. Mom's not cooking another dinner just for you. You're going to eat what we eat. And he says, you can either eat or get up and go to your room. He got up and went to his room. He was a fussy eater. Camping. Rex would hire a camp for a weekend, and there'd be 2 other families, and we'd go to the desert, and we'd play ball, and we had motorcycle. We had one motorcycle, and the kids would ride the motorcycles, and we'd have our dinners, and then we had, along with the motorcycle, we had a dune buggy, and then the men at night would play hide-and-seek in the dune buggy behind the rocks and the mountains and that. Had a good time, then come back, we'd have hot dogs, barbecued hot dogs, or marshmallows, things like that, which was fun. I did that during the summer months. It was fun. It was nice to do that. Different families together. Oh, it was always Christmas. I always loved Christmas. Being together, having good. Of course, Thanksgiving was always great too. The food was always big and a lot. And everybody ate a lot, slept afterwards, or they'd play cards or something like that, you know. Our times of enjoyment, the kids would think they're so dumb now. We used to live in the fall, we'd rake all the leaves off of the street, and all the kids on the block. Then we'd all go in the house and get a potato and put in the leaves and burn the leaves, and the potatoes would be black, and we'd eat it. Our faces were always black. We were eating the potato. We'd take the skin off, you know, and eat.
Oh my God.
My mother said, what do you kids do this for? Grandpa Gleason, he was a farmer, great farmer, and Grandma Gleason, they had these 7 children, and they were very close. And I never met Grandpa Gleason, but Grandma Gleason was really wonderful. The kids loved her. And she was one that come over and played cards with the 3 children. And they always loved for her to come over. And we were the last ones to have Grandma, because all the others were married. And Rex was the last to get married. And then she had to go visit the others, and they said, well, Grandma's been visiting them before, we should have her more. And Grandma said, well, I gotta visit everybody when I come in. Oh, yes, we didn't know until he was grown up. You never know what the children really do until they grow up. And then they start talking about it. And John went, and there's this falls in front of the city hall on La Mirada Boulevard. And he put a box of soap, sold a box of soap in that waterfall there, and it was all sons. He never got caught. And I didn't know until he was older. Or he would have been punished for it. Probably his dad. You don't do like that, things like that, you know, out in public. That's well kept and everything, you know. Problems of parents? Mm-hmm. I think it's only a problem when you make it big. You keep it small and you don't pay it. You discipline where discipline is needed, and you talk to them, and usually it works. Mm-hmm. And gee, they grew up pretty well, really. I can't complain about them. I'm very proud of them all now. John is good business. He takes care of himself. John and Robert, he's over. He lives in a neighborhood, and actually he does everything for me. Fixes water, fixes sprinklers, fixes everything. I'm very lucky he's here. Where John has his own business in Irvine, and they live up quite a ways from here. So they can't come over like my grandchildren, 2 grandchildren live down here, and they come over and help. they take me everywhere. I don't drive anymore. That's one of the things I really, really miss.
No.
To jump in a car and go out here. Oh, now I have to count on one, and it's so hard to get a good driver. Because I go to the doctors, I go shopping, and I want to jump in a car and go here, and I can't go. Driving is what's wonderful, really. And I didn't learn until after I got married. Because I lived in Chicago, we had trains and buses, you know. My brother Al is the youngest one. He came home from the service. He was a tank driver. And he didn't have a car when he come home. He used my dad's car. And one time I said, "Would you teach me how to drive?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "That's Dad, if I could teach you." And so I asked my dad. He says, "Okay." And he backed the car out of the garage. He never did teach me. He just went off on it. Oh, I was so upset with him. I did speak to him for a couple of weeks. Learned until I came here and was pregnant with Robert. Oh, I said that was something. Oh, I thought I was so proud. It's the best gift I ever got. My 2 children giving me grandchildren, and they were all wonderful. It just seemed like it filled my whole heart with everything I needed. Really, I didn't need any, chauffeur driver or anything like that. I just needed them. They drove me. Oh, Alex, she's my firstborn grandchild. She was a beautiful baby. Oh, I took care of her while her mother worked. What do you recall? Anyway, I used to take care of Alex when she was a baby. She was so, and I'd have her, Mom would drop her off, her mother, and she'd be here, and of course, she was just the idol of our eyes because she was our first grandchild. We had a swimming pool, she'd be in a swimming pool, she had more fun. And Grandpa, no one is like Grandpa. Grandpa just idoled her and just loved her. And then Jonathan came, and the same with him. We loved him. And who do I love best? I had 9 grandchildren. Well, I'll tell you who I had loved the best. I had Alex first. Oh, I loved her the best. Then I'd have Nicole, and then I loved her the best. And then I'd have Erica alone, and I loved her the best, so I couldn't tell you who was the best. Oh, John was very loving. Oh, he was so good and so loving. We had such good fun. But we used to have Christmas breakfasts, didn't we? And he used to make all the mix. He had the recipe, and the girls would fry the pancakes for all the men first. Oh, there were about 16 of us for breakfast, Christmas breakfast. And he did that, and Jonathan was a very loving boy to me. And he was very, very, very thoughtful. And he always wanted to be good, never hurt me or anything like that. He was so, all my children were the grandchildren were like that, so really, I can't complain there, not one. Nicole? Oh, Nicole grew up. She was just so thoughtful and so loving. Everything was, "Oh, Grandma, how are you this, and how are you that, and Grandma, what's this, do you need anything?" Growing up as young as she was, and she's still that way. "Grandma, are you okay?" And how things are. And they each had their own personality, and they're all so great in what they were that I was so proud of. I can't really say that one was a top of other. They were all great to me. Oh, Victoria, I think she was a type of a person who enjoyed being out with everybody, and I know she belongs to a book club, and reading is very important to her. Her walking and her bike riding, I think, too, marathon. She belongs to that, and that means a lot to her. She's very, very good about exercise and keeping her health, and she keeps her family close. Her children are very close and nice, and helps wherever she needs to be helped. And I don't see enough of her because she lives quite away from here, And she works, and I wouldn't want anyone else but her, knowing her and that, and her 3 children. They satisfy me very well. I'm very pleased that John has her and the 3 children. I'm kind of quiet, I think. I was quite quiet, always working, keeping things in order. See that everything goes off right. Just a homebody, that's all. A mother, a wife and a mother, and that's what I wanted to be. And it was wonderful. I can't complain. Really, good life. I miss my husband yet. He's been gone, 14 years? It's 2004. How does that make it? I don't know. Yeah, we got along fine. We had fun. We enjoyed one another. Home was home. That's what I liked. Being here, having a family together. Now that I'm older, it's kind of hard to have all that breakfast, so I don't have it. Yeah, it was fun while I had it. Time really passes so fast. I think I lived this long. I never thought I'd live this long. Not bad. I like living. I'm with my grandchildren every now and then, and I couldn't ask for more. My children are near. Robert's right here, and his wife. She's over every weekend. Elizabeth takes such good care of my medicines. She makes sure they're all there. There's about 10 of them. John comes, takes me out once a week for dinner and a movie. But the last time he caught me, he says, "Well, I'm not paying $13.75 for you to sleep in a movie show." He says, "I think this is," which is true. A stare puts me to sleep. Constant stare. Mm-hmm. So we just go out for dinner now, which I enjoy. That's my family. They enjoy things like that. But anyway, there might be some other stuff too, but I don't know what it is.